This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Friday, June 14th, 2024. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
The Supreme Court strikes down a challenge to medication abortion. What does it mean?
Certain things are still not going to change.
I'm Linda Kenyon in Washington.
Donald Trump's first trip to Capitol Hill since the Capitol riot was festive. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Legislation surrounding IVF blocked on Capitol Hill.
Democrats are not going to let Republicans off the hook.
I'm Clayton Neville.
On Wall Street, the S&P 500 index opens again this morning at a new record high. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
Once again, President Biden says he will not pardon or commute the sentence for his son, Hunter Biden, after his conviction on gun charges. I'm Bob Brown. I love that story.
Massachusetts regulators averted a cannabis drought. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
All ahead on America in the Morning. The Supreme Court has rejected an effort by abortion opponents to limit access to a commonly used abortion drug. Correspondent Linda Kenyon has the story from Washington.
The case involved the drug mifepristone, which the FDA approved more than 20 years ago as safe and effective for medication abortion. The approval was challenged by a group of doctors in Texas who oppose abortion, and it was filed after the 2022 Supreme Court decision that struck down Roe v. Wade. Jacqueline Ayers with Planned Parenthood explained what the ruling means.
Today's decision for all people means you can continue to get access to care at a Planned Parenthood health center and many independent abortion clinics across the country in states where abortion is legal.
The unanimous decision by the Supreme Court was more about process than about actual abortion itself. It said the plaintiff, called the Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine, had no standing in the case. True, said Ayers, but that's not the end of it.
While today's Supreme Court decision is welcome news, we also know that the fight is not over.
Vice President Kamala Harris agreed.
This is not a cause for celebration because the reality is certain things are still not going to change. We are looking at the fact that 2/3 of women of reproductive age in America live in a state with a Trump abortion ban. This ruling is not going to change that.
And she warned further abortion bans could become a reality.
This ruling is not going to change the fact that Trump's allies have a plan that, if all else fails, to eliminate medication abortion through executive action. So we must remain clear-eyed about the threats to reproductive freedom in America, and we must remain vigilant.
Republican Tim Burchett of Tennessee told CNN he was disappointed by the court's ruling.
I think abortion is wrong. You're killing a child, an unborn child, at any stage. I felt that is wrong.
But he agreed the fight is not over.
You can pass all the laws you want, but we're not going to change. Government is not going to change people's hearts. That needs to come from the church and the family, and we've done about all we can to destroy both those institutions. So I'd hope in the future that the courts would give us more favorable rulings.
California Attorney General Rob Bonta said his state is ready for any future challenges.
We will never stop fighting to ensure our state remains a safe haven for those seeking or providing abortions.
Linda Kenyon, Washington.
Former President Donald Trump has returned to Capitol Hill. Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports the meeting with Congressional GOP members focused on unity, the 2024 election, and the future.
We have to get elected. We have to take this beautiful place, and we have to make it really something very special again. Right now, it's not special. Right now, it's being scorned and being used as an example of when they look at the crime on the streets, when they look at all of the problems that we have, they're using us as a bad example of democracy.
There were cheers and cake for his birthday tomorrow.
This is an outstanding group of people. I'm with them 1,000%. They're with me 1,000%. We agree just about on everything, and if there isn't, we work it out.
And in a remarkable moment, a fist bump with Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Trump's most prominent GOP critic.
There's tremendous unity in the Republican Party.
Trump spent about an hour with Senate Republicans after a similar session with the House GOP.
It was our great pleasure to host the president this morning, the 45th president, who will soon to be be reelected as the 47th president. President Trump brought an extraordinary amount of energy and excitement and enthusiasm this morning. That is what we're seeing in the party throughout the country.
The aim was to talk issues and take questions.
We talked about how to grow this House majority and how he will help in doing so, and then how we'll help him as well. And this is a unified effort by the party.
And Johnson says prepare for a GOP takeover of the White House and Congress.
He's excited. We're excited. We really think this will happen.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
When we return on America in the Morning, in-vitro fertilization, Washington's new political football, after these messages. Welcome back. Here with America in the Morning. Well, don't look for the rain to end in southern Florida today. Here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sandberry with the forecast.
Heavy thunderstorms lingering over southern and central Florida will continue to drench much of this area with tropical downpours through the end of this week. Since Tuesday, widespread rainfall amounts of over a foot have been recorded across parts of the southern peninsula, and for some of the hardest hit locations, close to 2 feet of rain is expected when this event is all said and done by this weekend. For the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic, a cold front will spread through the region throughout the day today. With increasing humidity and warm air in place ahead of these storms, ingredients for severe weather will be present. Any storm may produce flooding downpours, hail, and locally damaging wind gusts. Warmer than normal conditions will persist from the interior of California through the southwest and into western Texas. Widespread high temperatures into the triple digits can be expected for much of Arizona and New Mexico, which can lead to a high wildfire risk when combining extended dry weather and gusty winds. In contrast, much of the Northwest can expect cooler conditions later today and into this weekend with some showers as low pressure moves through. Another round of severe storms is expected to erupt across the high plains east of the Rockies later this afternoon, expanding into the Central Plains by tonight. Damaging winds, large hail, and even a tornado can occur. That's the weather across America. In Wichita, Kansas, it will be warm and humid today with a mostly sunny sky, the high 90. However, in Indianapolis, Indiana, showers and thunderstorms in the morning will give way to sunshine with a high of 86. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sandberry.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. Democrats on Capitol Hill are frustrated with Senate Republicans who blocked a bill with protections surrounding in vitro fertilization. Correspondent Clayton Neville explains.
The bill would have ensured access to in vitro fertilization nationwide. It's an issue that comes to the forefront this election season after the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that frozen embryos are children. So the argument by some social conservatives is that life begins at conception. Because of that, embryos discarded as part of the IVF process could essentially be treated as murder or as manslaughter. Now, many Republicans support IVF, but the majority of Republican senators said the bill went too far. Only 2 voted with Democrats. Others argue the bill would have violated religious liberty by requiring all insurers to cover the treatment. Democratic Senator Patty Murray.
Democrats are not going to let Republicans off the hook for their support for fetal personhood. This is a dangerous and extreme ideology that the public must understand. Republicans support wholeheartedly.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer called it a sad day for Americans who want to become parents but struggle with infertility.
Protecting IVF should have been the easiest yes vote the Senate has taken all year.
He suggested the vote by Republicans contradicts what the party says it stands for.
Republicans cannot say they're a pro-family, but then vote against protecting IVF.
Republicans were pushing a bill that would have cut off Medicaid funding for states if they banned IVF. Democrats, though, wouldn't go for that. I'm Clayton Neville.
Tesla shareholders overwhelmingly voted to approve a $56 billion pay package for their CEO, Elon Musk, 5 months after a judge ordered the company to rescind the deal, finding it had been improperly granted by the board. Tesla shareholders also approved the company's state change of incorporation from Delaware to Texas. Musk also announced a plan to create a ride-hailing network of Tesla vehicles equipped with self-driving systems, but did not release a potential rollout date and said he expects to test out over 1,000 robots working at their Tesla factories next year. Mortgage rates slip. We'll have that in your Friday business report when America in the Morning continues after these messages. You're with America in the Morning. The Business Report is sponsored by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger.
Wall Street opens this morning after a mixed day for stocks, but the S&P 500 index opens at a record high.
At the index level, very strong trend, occasionally kind of goes a little far in the short term. This is kind of telling you that there's a lot of churn under the surface. It's been a very uneven market, rewarding only a handful of companies.
CNBC's Mike Santoli. Inflation at the wholesale level came in much cooler than expected for May in the PPI Producer Price Index, another data point that investors hope will help get the Fed ready to cut interest rates. Russian money will be used to fight Russia, as President Biden's made some moves with frozen Russian assets while at the G7 meeting in Italy.
President Biden and his fellow G7 leaders meeting in Italy this week announced a new agreement to use proceeds from frozen Russian assets in American banks and Western banks to back a $50 billion loan to Ukraine to keep that country in the fight against Russian aggression.
CNBC's Eamon Javers. More people applied for unemployment benefits last week, more than the pre-pandemic normal for the first time since last summer.
That's a big pop. 242,000. That's the highest level since August of 23. We popped above 1.8 million on continuing claims. Takes us all the way to November of 21.
CNBC's Rick Santelli. The number of people who continue to collect unemployment checks is watched as an indicator of how long it takes people to find their next job and can suggest a labor market returning to normal. Apple's being accused in a lawsuit of underpaying women on the staff. A lawsuit claims more than 12,000 female workers have been paid less than men doing the same jobs. Warner Brothers Discovery's Max has renewed HBO's House of the Dragon for Season 3. Season 2 of this prequel series to the Game of Thrones hit premieres on Sunday, which is Father's Day.
Slipping just a bit, let's talk about mortgage rates.
Yeah, would-be homebuyers this weekend have slightly lower mortgage rates on their side after the CPI for May this week showed inflation coming in lower than expected.
That's when we saw a really big drop in mortgage rates. In fact, we got into the 6% range, 6.9% on the 30-year fix. We'd been in the 7s for a long time. That was the lowest level since the end of March. I think you are going to see mortgage rates kind of hang in that high 6%, low 7% range for a while. It's got to be kind of in that 6% range to really kickstart this market, which has been just dead this spring.
CNBC's Diana Olick. On today's watch list, we get a fresh read on consumer sentiment. The Euro 2024 soccer tournament begins. It's round 2 of U.S. Open golf at Pinehurst in North Carolina. The winner's going to take home more than $4 million on Sunday.
Thank you. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. A pardon for Hunter? When America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. President Biden is ruling out a pardon for his son Hunter after his conviction on felony gun charges. Bob Brown has the story.
At the G7 summit in Italy, President Biden at a news conference once again stating he will not pardon nor will he commute the sentence of his son Hunter after he was convicted on 3 felony gun charges while using narcotics. Recently, in an ABC News interview, the president was asked if he would rule out a pardon for his son. The answer, yes.
I'm extremely proud of my son Hunter. He has overcome an addiction. He's one of the brightest, most decent men I know.
Hunter Biden was convicted of the charges on Tuesday. The president remains uncompromising.
I am satisfied that I'm not going to do anything. I said I abide by the jury decision. I will do that, and I will not pardon him.
This is the first time any child of a sitting U.S. president has had to stand trial. Meantime, Hunter Biden also faces federal tax charges in California. That trial's set to get underway in September. I'm Bob Brown.
Facing a lawsuit from Martha's Vineyard over a severe marijuana shortage, the state of Massachusetts now says that pot can be transported to the island as well as Nantucket. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has the update.
Martha's Vineyard was running out of pot just as thousands of summer vacationers were starting to arrive. The Massachusetts regulators averted a cannabis drought by issuing an administrative order that will allow pot to be transported to Martha's Vineyard and Nantucket Islands for the first time. On Martha's Vineyard, where the year-round population of 20,000 grows to more than 100,000 in the summer, one dispensary temporarily closed in May after running out of marijuana. Another said it would close by September. Although Massachusetts voters opted to legalize marijuana more than 7 years ago, the state commission has previously not allowed transportation of pot to the islands. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
America in the Morning for Friday, June 14th, 2024 is produced by Jeff McKay. Production assistants Christian Matos. Our senior producer Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
Donald Trump's first trip to Capitol Hill since the Capitol riot was festive. Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Destructive protests continue on college campuses in America. I'm Clayton Neville.
There's another sign that inflation may be easing. I'm Shelley Adler.
South Florida slammed with record flooding and the rain isn't over. I'm Pamela Furr.
Democrats want the GOP to end their mail-in ballot lawsuit. We'll tell you why.
Evan Gershkovich, who has been jailed for over a year in Russia, is to stand trial. I'm Karen Chamas.
The latest Pixar movie is here, and it draws a new story from a previous hit. I'm Kevin Carr.
Back after these messages. Welcome back to America in the Morning. We're in mid-June. There's more rain in store for Florida, and portions of the Northeast could see some potential severe weather today. With the nation's forecast, here's AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sadberry.
A progressive cold front will spread through the Northeast and Mid-Atlantic throughout the day today and into much of tonight. With warm air and an increase in humidity ahead of this front, ingredients will be present in the atmosphere for severe weather to ignite. Any storm can be capable of producing flooding downpours, hail, and locally damaging wind gusts, particularly for much of the I-95 corridor. In the southeast, thunderstorms will continue to drench portions of southern and central Florida with tropical downpours through the end of this week. Any downpour in this region today could reintroduce significant flooding for some hard-hit areas. Since Tuesday, widespread rainfall amounts of over a foot have been recorded from Sarasota to North Miami. Highest rainfall totals have exceeded 20 inches in a few spots, challenging some all-time rainfall records. Another round of thunderstorms, some severe, will erupt across the high plains east of the Rockies later today, expanding eastward into much of Nebraska and Kansas tonight. There will be a risk for large hail, damaging winds, and even an isolated tornado. Elsewhere in the west, warm air will continue to linger into this weekend from the interior of California through the southwest, Great Basin, and southern high plains to western Texas. Widespread high temperatures into the triple digits can be expected for much of Arizona and New Mexico, which can lead to a high wildfire risk when combining extended dry weather and gusty winds. However, for the northwest, low pressure will bring in cooler air with some showers through the weekend. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Adam Sadberry.
Remember, you can follow us wherever you get your podcasts: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, and YouTube. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. I'm John Trout. At the G-7 summit in Italy, the U.S. and Ukraine have signed a 10-year long-term security deal to help Kyiv's fighting against Russia. As Washington correspondent Sagar Meghani reports, as for where the money to finance Ukraine's security will come from, President Biden says that'll be from frozen assets from the Kremlin's coffers.
Our goal here is straightforward. We want to demonstrate that the U.S. supports the people of Ukraine, that we stand with them, and that we'll continue to help address their security needs, not just tomorrow, but out into the future.
The U.S. and Ukraine have signed a long-term security deal aimed at boosting Kyiv's defenses against Russia.
We've taken 3 major steps at the G7 that collectively show Putin we cannot wait us out. He cannot divide us. And we'll be with Ukraine until they prevail in this war.
Minutes after he and President Biden finalized the pact in Italy, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky thanked him, but also raised a concern through an interpreter.
The question has to be for how long the unity will last.
Given the prospect of Donald Trump returning to the White House in November.
How these or those elections will influence this unity.
The president tried to reassure Zelensky and Ukrainians.
There's a lot more money coming beyond what's already come in the other tranches that are available now that we've passed the legislation. So they'll have what they need and get it there as quickly as we possibly can.
The agreement came as the president and other G7 leaders also cleared the way for a $50 billion loan package for Kyiv. He says those steps, plus new sanctions on Russia, send a signal to Vladimir Putin.
All told, I'm proud to announce the United States has mobilized more than $60 billion in investments around the world thus far. That's double where we were last year. Now we've still got a long way to go to close the infrastructure gap that holds too many countries back. But together, I think we're showing that democracies can deliver. This is an important moment to be able to do that. He cannot wait us out. He cannot divide us.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
Anti-Israel demonstrations continue, and the number of anti-Semitic crimes is growing in the U.S. Correspondent Clayton Neville has the latest on a destructive protest in California and a potential ban on masks in parts of New York.
Extensive damage at Cal State University in L.A. after pro-Palestinian demonstrators barricaded a building during protests. The university president reportedly was in that building, sheltering in place. ABC 7 spoke with protest organizers.
We're tired of being ignored, so this is the tactic that we've chosen. Something I want to make very clear, the tactic being used here, we have folks that have chained themselves to the front door of the building. They will not unchain themselves until we have a commitment from the university president to divest university funds away from this genocide.
Demonstrators piled up furniture and overturned golf carts and tables to create barriers in front of the Student Services building. They were gone by yesterday morning and returned to an encampment they've had set up for weeks, but serious damage was left behind. Classes are being held virtually and all campus events called off through today. Meanwhile, on the East Coast, a growing number of anti-Semitic crimes are being reported in New York subways. Because of that, Kathy Hochul, the governor there, considering banning masks in the subways. Many attackers are seen wearing them.
My role as governor is to protect people from crime and threatening behavior. I need to find a path to do that.
She was asked if that ban would include protests.
Legitimate protest is part of freedom of speech. We also protect that. People cross the line into criminal behavior, threatening behavior, that's a different ballgame altogether.
A timeline on a potential move by the governor isn't clear, and she's said to be working on it with lawmakers. The idea was floated after a group with masks took over a subway car this week, chanting things about Hitler and wiping out Jews. I'm Clayton Neville.
Good news for your bottom line as a government report shows wholesale prices dropped last month. Correspondent Shelley Adler reports.
Wholesale price increases fell in May, the latest sign that inflation pressures in the country may be slowing down. The Labor Department reported that its producer price index, which tracks inflation before it reaches consumers, declined 0.2% from April to May. That's after rising 0.5% the month before. Compared to last year, wholesale prices were up 2.2% in May. The producer price index can provide an early read on where consumer inflation is heading as the Federal Reserve considers a timetable for cutting interest rates. I'm Shelley Adler.
Saying they will kill civilians without justification. The Department of Justice releases a 126-page report slamming the practices of the Phoenix, Arizona Police Department as part of a federal civil rights probe. Correspondent Norman Hall reports.
The sweeping probe found police have a pattern of discrimination against Black, Hispanic, and Native American people, unlawfully detain homeless people, and use excessive force, including unjustified deadly force.
Our investigation found that the police department discriminates against Black, Hispanic, and Native American people in its enforcement activities.
Assistant Attorney General Kristen Clark.
Our findings are not based on any one incident or event, but on a comprehensive investigation.
Phoenix Mayor Kate Gallego says city attorneys will review next steps, but the head of the police union called the investigation a farce and said putting the department under a consent decree will hurt officer morale.
The Phoenix Police Department trains officers that escalation is de-escalation, meaning that you could escalate a situation with force, including deadly force, in order to diffuse it.
I'm Norman Hall.
When we return on America in the Morning, Google partners with the Oracle of Omaha after these messages. This is America in the Morning. I'm John Trout. Most of South Florida is seeing life-threatening flooding after as much as 2 feet of rain has fallen in 48 hours, and more is expected. Pamela Furr has the latest.
We're told drainage systems across South Florida have been overwhelmed with how much and how fast rain has fallen. Roads are clogged with several feet of water, with hundreds of stalled cars in the streets. This man tells NBC6 South Florida.
This is our courtyard. Our courtyard is flooded. The street is flooded. It's even to our cars, underneath the bottom of our cars. So we're pretty much in a problem here.
The state and multiple cities declaring a state of emergency.
Well, now cars are coming down and get stuck, okay, which makes it more of a hazard. Now you see them blowing their horns, they're trying to get through. Where are you going? There's nowhere to go.
At one point, traffic on Interstate 95, one of the most traveled roads in the state, had to be shut down, and hundreds of flights either delayed or canceled because of too much water on runways. This woman also telling NBC6 South Florida.
I moved here about a year ago, and this is the worst I've seen it.
More rain falling overnight, with community leaders telling people to stay home until the water begins to subside. I'm Pamela Furr.
The Biden campaign is asking Republicans to drop their legal challenges to mail-in voting. Correspondent Jackie Quinn reports that their request comes after former President Trump encouraged voters to use that ballot option for the November election.
President Biden's re-election campaign says Donald Trump is now supporting mail-in voting, so the GOP should drop its lawsuits filed in a number of states. For years, Donald Trump asserted, without evidence, that mail-in voting is riddled with fraud. This was in August of 2020, before the election votes were counted.
Universal mail-in voting is going to be catastrophic. It's going to make our country a laughingstock all over the world.
The Republican National Committee has filed multiple lawsuits seeking to limit provisions of mailed balloting in states like Nevada, Mississippi, and Pennsylvania. But with its new Swamp the Vote campaign, the Republican Party is encouraging Trump supporters to vote by mail if that's more convenient for them. Republicans say there is no contradiction because they're suing to make sure mail-in voting is more secure. I'm Jackie Quinn.
A 4-year-old girl was found dead in Mississippi just hours after an Amber Alert was issued for her and her 6-year-old sister, both of whom were abducted from their Louisiana home. Erin Brunette and her 6-year-old sister Jaylee were taken by a man believed to be the on and off again boyfriend of the girl's mother, Kaylee Brunette, whose body was found in her home outside of Baton Rouge. The daughter, Erin Brunette's body, was found over 120 miles away in Mississippi. Police then found her sister with the girl's suspected abductor, Daniel Callahan, who now faces extradition back to Louisiana, where he's expected to face capital crimes charges. America in the Morning continues. A reporter for the Wall Street Journal who's been detained in Russia for over a year has now been told he will face trial. Correspondent Karen Shamas reports.
The Wall Street Journal reporter has been in a Russian prison accused of espionage. Authorities say he'll stand trial in the Ural mountain city of Yekaterinburg. The Prosecutor General's office said Gershkovich is accused of gathering secret information on orders from the CIA about a facility that produces and repairs military equipment. This is the first time details of the accusations against him have been revealed. The reporter, his employer, and the US government denied the allegations, and Washington designated him as wrongfully detained. If convicted, Gershkovich faces up to 20 years in prison. I'm Karen Chamas.
Google announces a partnership with a Warren Buffett conglomerate to tap into clean geothermal power for Nevada. Here's Chuck Palm with that in today's Tech Report.
Google has partnered with Berkshire Hathaway Electric Utility to provide data centers with advanced geothermal electricity. The deal still has to be approved by state utility regulators and would increase the amount of carbon-free geothermal energy injected into the local power grid and would give an increase of 115 megawatts from the current 3.5 megawatts in about 6 years' time, Google said in a statement yesterday. Most of the big tech companies are seeking more power output due to the increased need for AI and cloud computing platforms. Google has already announced plans to spend at least $4 billion to build or expand data centers in Indiana, Missouri, and Virginia. Duke Energy, which operates in regulated states, announced a similar agreement with Google, as well as Microsoft and Amazon, late last month. In 2021, Google entered an agreement with Fervo Energy that is currently supplying them with 3.5 megawatts of power as part of their pilot program. Tell us what you think at allthetoptech.tech. I'm Chuck Palm.
Robert Workman's Sports is sponsored by Untuckit. Get your Father's Day gifts at our 80-plus stores or untuckit.com. Untuckit shirts designed to be worn untucked. Robert?
The Florida Panthers are just one win away from their first Stanley Cup. They beat the Oilers 4-3 in Edmonton last night to take a commanding 3-0 lead in the finals, breaking open a 1-1 game in the second period with 3 goals in 6.5 minutes, then staving off a third-period Oilers rally. 32 saves for Sergei Bobrovsky.
We'll keep staying with the moment. It's obviously a great win for us tonight, and we enjoy tonight and get ready for the next moment.
Game 4 is in Edmonton tomorrow night. The Celtics can capture their 18th NBA championship tonight as they go for the 4-game sweep over the Mavericks in Dallas. If not, there's always Monday back home in Boston. Baseball, the Mets' J.D. Martinez has hit 320 homers in his career, but had never knocked one out to end a ball game until last night. A 2-run walk-off shot gave New York a 3-2 win over the Marlins. Royals got a 2-out, 2-run double from Michael Garcia in the bottom of the ninth to tip the Yankees 4-3. White Sox sank the Mariners 3-2 in 10 innings. Rays rallied past the Cubs 3-2. Rangers held off the Dodgers. Bruce Bochy gets managerial win number 2,126. That's 9th all-time. Diamondbacks demolished the Angels. Christian Walker homered twice and drove in 4. Jock Peterson added a grand slam and 5 RBI. Braves beat the Orioles to snap a 5-game skid. Twins trampled the A's. Oakland has dropped 6 straight. Tigers broke open a tie game with a 5-run 7th to down the Nationals. Red Sox romped over the Phillies, and the Cardinals clipped the Pirates. The College World Series begins today in Omaha with 4 teams from the SEC and 4 teams from the ACC in the double elimination tournament. Golf's U.S. Open at Pinehurst, North Carolina. Patrick Cantlay and Rory McIlroy share the first-round lead at 5 under, and soccer's UEFA European Championships begin today in Germany, with England and France among the favorites. That's Friday Sports.
Thank you, sir. Soul Group reunites and going inside out at the box office when America in the Morning returns after these messages. Welcome back. Thanks for listening. You're with America in the Morning. They went their separate ways decades ago, but now a gospel soul group has found a surprisingly new popularity. Entertainment correspondent Margie Zaraletta reports.
Living is a world alone. Living is a world alone.
That is the Staples Junior Singers off their album Searching, out Friday. The siblings were kids when they formed in 1967, taking their name from one of their influences, the Staple Singers. The group faded and they all moved on until a collector found their record in 2019 and put it on the radar of David Byrne's Luaka Bop record label.
I got all kind of style of music. I can take you back to the old school.
I can bring you to the middle school, whatever school you want me to go to. I'm just, God gave me that gift, I can do it.
Singer Annie Brown Caldwell says their newfound popularity is a surprise.
This is the time that we are getting older, and it seems like the Lord just now started pouring out a blessing for my youth.
The Staples Junior Singers are in their 60s, but they're performing again with a group that now includes their grandchildren.
I keep on searching. Yes, I will, till I found him. God is good tonight. He's so good.
I'm Archie Zaraletta.
Pixar has a new sequel out, and it's expected to give the box office a big boost. Kevin Carr has a sneak peek at Inside Out 2.
After some misfires, Pixar is heading back to its well of hits with a new sequel.
Our little girl's growing up so fast. And things couldn't be better.
Inside Out 2 reunites us with the emotions of Riley, who is now heading into puberty and must face a new batch of complicated feelings.
I'm anxiety. I am just such a huge fan of yours. We're Riley's new emotions. Wow!
A lot of what worked in the original film is still present in this movie, from the exuberant voice cast, including Amy Poehler as Joy, to the high-concept lens that makes Pixar movies so innovative. However, like puberty itself, things start to get a little messy when trying to streamline the story.
Let Operation New Riley begin. You aren't packed yet? I'm the worst!
The secondary characters, like anger and disgust, go on the journey with Joy, which is fun but not as nuanced as the charming relationship between Joy and Sadness from the first film. And Riley's real-life struggles as a teenager seem a bit too routine.
I'm too gross to go anywhere ever again! Well, that's a preview of the next 10 years.
Still, Inside Out 2 is a great family film with beautiful animation and an emotional core that has made Pixar films stand out for decades.
Yeah! That's not going to haunt us for the rest of our lives at all.
It's not as good as the original, but it does course correct from some stumbles in the past. Inside Out 2 gets 3.5 joys out of 5. I'm Kevin Carr, and that's the way I see it.
That's our show for today, Friday, June 14th, 2024. America in the Morning, produced by Jeff McKay. Production assistants, Christian Matos. Our senior producer is Kevin Delaney. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.